Alassane Ouattara's candidacy will be announced at the Rhdp Congress after the Muslim fasting month. The democratic fraud continues in Côte d'Ivoire. Alassane Ouattara, the old schemer, is preparing to announce his candidacy for a fourth term, trampling once again on the constitution and the will of the people. I've been warning you for months. Indeed, on November 28, 2024, during a secret meeting with his inner circle, Alassane Ouattara decided, against all odds, to run for a fourth term, excluding Presidents Laurent Gbagbo and Guillaume Soro, as well as Blé Goody, from the political scene. The regime's courtiers cried conspiracy, and the naive doubted. Exasperated, he gave his collaborators a dressing down, calling them incapable and good for nothing, explaining that, forced by their incompetence, he had no choice but to run for a fourth term. Yes, you heard correctly. The old rogue no longer wanted to run again, but faced with the lack of a reliable successor, he convinced himself that he was indispensable. Did I say so, yes or no? Better yet, I told you that in early 2025, he would travel to Paris to obtain the French president's endorsement, essential to his plan to seize state power. But was I heard? I sometimes feel like I'm preaching in the wilderness. Today, everyone is surprised by the exclusion of Presidents Gbagbo and Soro, as well as Blé Goody. Everyone, except you, my subscribers. You were warned. But today, the masks are falling.
You would like Mr. Gbagbo and Mr. Blé Goody to be able to be candidates, which they are not currently able to do.
Yes, they have the right. They are Ivorian citizens. They have the right to be candidates. Now the rest will depend on them. I'll take the case of Mr. Gbagbo and Mr. Blé Goody. Isn't that shameful? You deported them to the ICC, and they served 10 years.
That's not the right word, deported.
Well, you sent them to the ICC under the pretext that they committed crimes. They spent 10 years there. The ICC says they're innocent. They come, you give them 20 years. You deprive them of their rights. And then you think there's nothing to be done, they'll submit. I don't understand people. You create the conditions for unrest. You force people who don't want to fight for their honor, for their dignity. And then afterwards, when there are problems, you act as if you're surprised. If we want peace, we must take action for peace. The dictator has given his orders. A congress will be held after the Muslim month of fasting, during which Alassane Ouattara's candidacy will be formalized. A political theater where his Rhdp lackeys will feign surprise, and implore their master to remain in power. This will be the signal for repression, a wave of violence aimed at terrorizing the population and permanently locking down power. Then the single-party machine will be set in motion to impose a rigged election, an electoral farce where the winner is known in advance. Don't be in a hurry. We ourselves have gone ahead of him to say that it is not up to you, Mr. President, to say that you are going to this election. It is up to us to say it, and we are here to campaign. You don't even need to go on the ground because you have put together strong teams that are everywhere. We have a candidate named Alassane Ouattara, who will win this election in the first round. We won't even go to the second round because their objective, certainly, is to think of forming a coalition, thinking that we will go to the second round. But in the first round, we will have already wiped them out. So rest assured, and that is what will happen. In his obsession with absolute power, Alassane Ouattara didn't just consult his generals and mercenaries. No. He went further. The marabouts and sorcerers of Tani Birahima Ouattara, known as the Vile, were summoned. A Mauritanian marabout and 3 Malians are currently in Abidjan to prepare the ground, bless the fraud, and ensure victory. This is what the Rhdp's policy boils down to. A mystical political mess where the constitution is replaced by nocturnal incantations. The despot Ouattara affirms, "The oracles told me there will be nothing." But if the oracles could guarantee power, many tyrants would still be in power. Isn't this the ultimate proof that this man doesn't believe in democracy, but only in manipulation, cheating, and state witchcraft? Ivorians, rise up. History has proven the opposite. No illegitimate regime can stand up to a determined and awakened people. Behind the scenes, cracks are already appearing. Some of Alassane Ouattara's allies are doubting and hesitating. Others are already negotiating their future, because they know the end is near. The dictator himself knows this. If he were so sure of his victory, would he need to silence his opponents even before the battle? First question, Laurent Gbagbo, Guillaume Soro, and Blé Goody are not on the electoral roll, so they are automatically excluded from the electoral process. I believe that on this issue, we must be clear. The Rhdp cannot replace the institutions of the Republic that are responsible for managing this issue. But as a reminder, I would like to inform you that this is not the first time this has happened. We saw Laurent Gbagbo participate in elections as a candidate, and on the other hand, we saw President Badi and President Alassane Ouattara who were excluded. The sky did not fall on us. So, this is to tell you that regarding their re-registration on the electoral roll, they must contact the institution responsible for managing this issue. And since we are in the process of litigation, the advice I can give them is to engage in this process and see to what extent they can be registered on the electoral roll. For the time being, the Rhdp has nothing to say on this. Democracy contributes to peace. A lack of democracy, such as the exclusion of candidates or voters, can also contribute to unnecessary disruption. This fourth term is a political rape, an electoral coup in preparation. Côte d'Ivoire deserves better than an aging despot clinging to his chair like a leech to a corpse. We cannot accept this. We must rise up, mobilize, and reject this charade. Côte d'Ivoire is entering a crucial period. Everyone must choose their side. Submission or resistance.
Without Gbagbo, there will be no election. There will be no president because we will be mobilized. As long as Gbagbo is not on the electoral list, there will be no president in Côte d'Ivoire. That's all.
The time for lamentation is over, but for vigilance and action. The moment of truth is approaching. The masks will fall. The traitors will fall. And the dictator Ouattara will fall. History has shown us that dictators always fall. It is up to us to hasten their fall. The international community will grasp this element of fraud, and consequently, all conclusions could be drawn. It would be inconceivable that the resources of French, European, and other taxpayers would be used to try to bolster a charade and legally establish a dictatorship in Côte d'Ivoire. Chris Yapi does not lie. Find Chris Yapi on his 2 YouTube channels, his Rumble channel, his TikTok, X, Instagram, VK and Threads accounts.